Hi, everyone. Welcome to our channel. My name is Whitni Toson, and I'm the founder and clinical director at Alamo Ranch Counseling and Wellness. And today we have Jasmine Idrogo, who is our community engagement therapist at Alamo Ranch Counseling and Wellness. We are here today to talk about EMDR therapy, answer any questions you have about EMDR therapy. We both provide EMDR therapy, and we're both very passionate about this modality. So we just want to provide information, and hopefully you can take some nuggets with you today. So I want to start off by giving a disclaimer that everything we talk about is just for information. It's not to substitute any type of mental health treatment or to be any professional advice. We're really just here
Yeah.
to share information. So before we start, I guess anything else you want to share, Jasmine, before you jump into the EMDR history?
Well, just really excited to be talking about this, first of all, because I feel like when I bring up EMDR, when someone's not initially searching for it, but then I bring up the idea, it seems very like, what's that? And so
Mhm.
I have practiced an elevator speech, so I'm just kind of excited to go more into detail and like really answer questions, concerns, and really bring more familiarity to it.
Yeah,
And kind of like demysticize it and more so. It's kind of like this is a very well-researched therapy and it works. And so that's kind of the
yeah.
point of this video. So I'm really excited that we're here talking about it.
Yes, your excitement makes me excited
Mhm.
because I can agree that a lot of people don't know about it. And so when I hear things like, I think it was Miley Cyrus when she recently put a video out there talking about her experience with EMDR therapy, I was like, yes, but it's been
Yeah.
around for some time. And so I know you're going to
Yeah.
dive into that, but it seems like more people are starting to hear a little bit about it. But I guess we'll transition and maybe tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about how EMDR started.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I first did the training, and I remember you first talking to me about it, and then reading the book before the training, and then also during the training, and kind of learning about how it came about. I was like, this is so strange because I remember a time in my life where I would just hike a lot and like walk in nature, and I myself was like, what the heck? Like, did she have the same experience that I did? Because I think just how it was discovered was very like near and dear to like what I would do and like how less stressed or distressed I felt after these walks and hikes. And so I was like, this is really interesting and just really spoke to me the way it came about. And so you're right, it's been around since 1987.
Yeah.
Francine Shapiro is the face of it all and noticed let her own emotion, like emotional distress or just emotions in general that were like not very you know, easy to sit with, would decrease when she moved her eyes back and forth while walking in nature.
Yeah.
Was kind of like, what is this? And kind of dove more into some research about it. She started researching the connection between what's called bilateral stimulation, which is like the eye movement, and there's other forms of it, and just emotional regulation in general. And by 1989, she uh, essentially formalized what we know now as the 8 phase EMDR protocol. And it's now widely used by the APA and big organizations like WHO, like World Health Organization, and it's highly researched. It's highly encouraged. And she really did the study and like made the protocols with the first group of population was like veterans and military and with PTSD essentially, and found really good results in the fact that it like really reduced the emotional distress tied to these really traumatic memories. And it kind of just took
Mhm.
off from there. So that's
Yeah.
kind of how it came about. And now it's still going strong.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is. And I'm so happy that somehow I ended up in using this modality because prior to, and there's nothing wrong with other modalities, but I was heavy like CBT, which is really helpful.
Mhm.
But for some reason, it was like some of my clients would come back, like we would complete treatment and things seemingly were okay, but maybe 6 to 12 months later, they would come back. But with specific clients, it wasn't anything new that they were coming back for. They were coming
Mm.
back for, hey, yeah, I know I have all this information and tools, and it works in some places, but for some reason, I'm finding that this stuff is still coming up. And
Yeah.
so it kind of prompted me to do a little more research into the EMDR therapy modality. And that's when I'm so grateful I got trained in it. And
Yeah.
when I started to use it, and now I'm certified, but it's so transformative is the word. It's transformative to watch someone come in. And so I guess I want to ask you, because you talked a little bit about the BLS or the bilateral
Mm.
stimulation.
Yeah.
Are you able to explain what that looks like to people maybe coming into this space when we say we use BLS to kind of help you process a little faster or to slow things down?
Yeah. And so the way like I said, I wouldn't want to say perfected a elevator speech, but like I go through this elevator speech so much and to like really try and demystify and also explain like what BLS does and like how it works. Is we'll briefly explain like the many forms that we have. Like there's audio, there's self-tapping, the one that was researched and like first started it all was the eye movement. And some people like it, but some people choose different forms of BLS because some might feel better or work better. And then research is also now that it's been researched a lot, research shows that some people do better with what we call like the tappers, right? The things that buzz in our head. So people that are more like tactile or kinesthetic in that way do better with that form of BLS versus the eye movement. And so some people like the audio. My personal favorite is the heartbeat audio. I don't know why it speaks to me, but I'm able to close my mind and process, and it just helps. And
Oh, wow.
so the way I would explain it is that, side to side movement is one more so taxing the dual processing and like working memory and all of these things because we're asking someone to bring something up that is distressing. And then we,
Mhm.
at that same time are there with them. So, we're promoting a sense of safety after we've prepared them for it. And then also just taxing the working memory and like taxing that dual awareness and just I also like to explain it like, when babies need to be soothed, they like side to
Yeah,
side movements. So it's kind of like we're soothing you as you're processing
exactly.
all of this. And so that's really where they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense, right? Like babies
Yeah.
like to be soothed from side to side. Sometimes when we're stressed, we might sway side to side, or when we kind of pace, when we're anxious, like we're going side to side, like it's a very natural body movement. So,
Yes, that's exactly what's in my mind when we slow things down, like that slow, like rocking a baby. And I do that with my clients sometimes, and I'll do it too in session because it's like I'm going through this process. I'm not living it. I'm not, it's their process, but I'm still here to support and I'm using my nervous system. So
mhm.
sometimes I'll start swaying too because I'm like, that was a lot that came up.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So for everyone that's watching the BLS, it doesn't necessarily have to be eye movement, but eye movement is where the eye movement part of the EMDR came from. It's the bilateral. So it's moving your eyes side to side. But as we have evolved and done more research, it could be other types of BLS or that side to side movement.
Yeah.
All right. So anything else about the history, or should we dive into some of the common questions or concerns that people have about EMDR therapy? What you think?
I think the common questions and concerns, because I feel like those come up more, right? Like,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. So let's go to, is EMDR safe? I think that's a good question. I have a lot of clients that they may ask, am I being hypnotized? And I'm like, no, you're fully awake. You are aware. It's just you're kind of accessing a different part of your brain that maybe you don't normally operate in. But yeah, I want to hear what you have to say. I would say it's safe.
I definitely always say it's safe. The way what am I trying to say? Like the way I comfort and reassure clients who want to do it, but aren't like quite sure that they want to do it yet.
Yeah.
I say that's no problem. We before we even start reprocessing, right, which is like phase 3 and 4, which is like that's the that's where we get into the stuff, right? There's a long time spent in phase two, which is preparation. And so
Yes.
what we really try to do before kind of like jumping into EMDR, not that it's unsafe, it's just it can flood someone emotionally if they aren't prepared. So that's what I like to
Mm,
explain. Like, yes, it's safe, but we just got to make sure that we're prepared. And so we like to teach a lot of different coping skills, resourcing, talking about like how like different traumas or just different things in general have affected the nervous system and how we process things. And so it's safe in the fact that like you are okay, you're processing in front of us, and you also always have the option to stop. I
hmm.
always like to say that like you have autonomy to stop if it feels like it's too much, right? Um, but yeah, so it's super safe. There's a lot of preparation that goes into it, and then needless to say, like we're trained to make sure that like you're okay,
Yes.
you're okay. So
Yes, exactly. I like how you said that. And the vision that came to my mind, and this one I use with some of my clients, is like, we're not just going to throw you into the trauma and say swim. So it's like there's a lot of prep work to kind of teach you how to manage those uncomfortable emotions and even the body sensations that come
yeah,
up when we start diving into trauma. And so, yeah, like if it goes, like if your therapist is attuned and aware, the protocol is safe. And we want to
yeah,
make sure that we prepare you. So I like how you laid it out there. And then there are some people that need that extended prep where
yes,
maybe they've had more complex trauma or that trauma that started really early in life where maybe things never felt safe. And so when safe can feel unsafe, like that may take a little more time and we may have to incorporate other treatment or therapy modalities to kind of help build skills and resources there. So,
yeah, definitely.
okay. So here's a question. So this one says, what if I disassociate or freeze up?
Yeah. That
That's a
is a
deep one.
that's a good concern that I hear a lot. And then kind of going off of what you just said earlier is, the attunement is really important. And if someone were to ask me that, then I would say that I would adjust to you, right? And when you're trained and when you go through the training, and then when you're just constantly trying to learn more about how to attune better or how to like treatment plan in a way that feels right for
Yeah.
what they're looking for, what they're able to do in the moment, or how prepped they are, or, you know, what I like to say is that there are different ways that we can make sure that you're still able to process. So there's one, I can't remember exactly the name, but there's a protocol that's CIPOS, right? And so
Oh,
it's,
yeah.
yeah, it's what it really looks like is just I can notice that someone's dissociating or they're kind of freezing up, or nothing's coming up right as we're trying to process is we'll start to tax the working memory a little bit more and then bring present awareness. Like, all
Mhm.
right, tell me what's on the wall over there, or can you look at that lamp, or what's the color of the rug, and where are you right now? What day is it today? Kind of thing. So
Yeah.
just making sure that we're kind of taking one step in the present, one step in the past. And so
Mm.
that's really the art of it. And so I try to really reassure that like I'll attune and then I'll adjust. Right.
Yeah.
But I like
Yeah.
to really assure them too that like you're able to do this. Like you're here, you've been carrying it.
Yeah.
Safe place to
Yeah.
practice it. So whatever they need, just attune.
Yeah. No, I like that. It goes back to the resourcing and us as a therapist paying attention to our clients. And then also, we all in our training, we're taught to do the DES or the dissociative experiences scale to kind of give us insight to how this person checks out or disassociates and the frequency or the severity. It kind of gives us insight to just be aware. So that's something that we learn in our training we're supposed to do before we even jump into the trauma, is to kind of have that awareness. And then I agree where I'm hearing you say like the advanced training, like taking more trainings outside of the basic the training to learn more about different protocols and different modalities we can incorporate. So one of the things I love to use is the parts work. Uh, I love parts work. So
Yeah.
it's we can start to explore these different emotional aspects of ourselves that may show up when we start processing. So with some of my clients who have higher levels of disassociation or who have, endured childhood trauma, abuse, neglect, I want to make sure that we are able to attune to these different parts that may not have been attuned. And they
Yeah.
learn that they had to protect themselves. So they have these protectors or these protective parts that show up and not allow us to access, other aspects of the client. So
Yeah.
that's something else that kind of helps me as a therapist stay aware and present with my client too. Yeah.
I love
So
that.
let's,
Parts is amazing.
I know. So let's see. I guess what's the question? Okay, can EMDR therapy help with more than just trauma? What you
Oh
think?
yeah. Um, so EMDR has been researched for what now, like 40 something years?
Yeah,
And in of all of that time, right, there has been adjustments and different protocols made for different things, and it's not just for trauma. It
yeah.
is processing grief, anxiety, substance use disorders, eating disorders, just in general,
Public speaking.
self-esteem, public speaking, right? Self-esteem, different phobias, right? Or just a symptom. EMDR can also even be used just, I had a really bad car accident and I need to drive. Perfect. I got
Yeah,
you. Right? Like it can be virtually used for anything that you struggle with, even just like a negative, self thought that you have that you can't really seem to get over. It's like, we'll work on that. Right.
yeah,
Um, yeah, there's so much like perfectionism or like anything you can tailor it really to whatever anybody needs. I know that I've taken the training for substance use and eating disorders, and just in that in general, like it's similar, but it's also very different in the sense that it that itself tailors to the needs of that specific client
Mhm.
or person that
Yeah,
seeks like seeking EMDR. And so it's just amazing.
yeah. No, I agree. I agree. I said the public speaking because I had did an intensive not that long ago, an EMDR intensive, which was definitely intense. Like EMDR alone is a therapy that can be intense. So if you do a therapy intensive, you can imagine. But I found it so empowering. And then the next time that I had to go speak, I found that I had more grace and compassion for myself. Where maybe times where I'm like, oh man, I wish I didn't say that. This time I was like, you know what? I showed up, I did my best. Hopefully they got something and received something. But if not, like I showed up and I did my best. So I know for me, I'm like, yes, like this stuff
It
works.
works, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I had another thought. Oh my goodness. But I'll go to this question. And then I know it's one specific question I want to make sure we address because we put a poll or something out there on Instagram, and
Mhm.
someone had a question that was very unique. So I want to make sure we come back to address that question.
Yeah.
But this question is, why would someone choose EMDR instead of talk therapy?
So I'm thinking of someone that um had asked that question as well. And not that traditional talk therapy is terrible. It's also very helpful, very useful, and you can reach
Mhm.
just, the same amount of goals. I think when someone chooses EMDR, one, it could be like they have time constraints,
Yeah,
right? Because I know EMDR is widely known as like it once you kind of start and if you start with what's called the worst memory or sometimes the touchstone or whatever, right? It can have the effect of like really just desensitizing the rest is like the idea.
yeah,
And so it's really like people with time constraints, or it's just like, okay, well, I've done talk therapy, you know, through this year, and it was great. But like you said, I still feel like this is coming up and it
So,
gets stuck,
yeah.
right? Or like I still feel this body sensation when I'm confronted with this, right? And or I'm having different dreams and nightmares that come up of these little other things, right? It's kind of like it's still kind of in your body, essentially. We haven't really fully processed it. And so what EMDR essentially does, it's like it really attunes to like the nervous system and then really tries to reprocess everything and integrate it. And so
Mhm.
Matt, back when we just started the video is um EMDR targets the adaptive or is it the AIP model? So it's the way that we store our memories, especially if they're not very pleasant ones, we store it in a maladaptive way.
Mhm.
And so EMDR really wants to store them in an adaptive way, just kind of like how you said, right? You would leave public speaking events and you would kind of become more critical of yourself. And then
Mhm.
you kind of said that you leave now and you're giving yourself more grace and you're finding the good parts to it and kind of being like you did your best. It's okay. So public speaking obviously had something to do with the way that we were storing these
Mhm.
memories associated with it and like different triggers and how it comes up. And so we're replacing the maladaptive ways of storing these things in our bodies and we're forming an adaptive way of doing it. And so we're targeting the brain
Mhm.
specifically for that to do
Yes, no, I like that. I love that. Yeah, it's really hard to go back to talk therapy. Even as a therapist, I'm like, man, EMDR can help with this. But I'm trying to stay present with the clients and what their needs are. But yeah, so taking the information we have now to whatever that memory or disturbance that caused it to kind of help it process and clear it out so it can just kind of move
that.
along. Because something got stuck when we were processing whatever event, if it was, you know, this didn't happen to me, but just let's just say in the cafeteria, I dropped my tray and people laugh. And now I don't want to do public speaking. But if you're able to take new information back to that, and hey, those were kids, and guess what? You're a kid, stuff happens, and show that compassion or whatever comes up in your processing, you can move past it. Not
Yeah.
that you forget what happened, not that, it never happened. And sometimes it's certain memories people may still be like, you know what, I don't like that that happened, or I'm upset about it. But the goal is that it's not bringing you present day disturbance when you bring it up. So I'm not feeling it in my body. I don't want to avoid it. It's just like, man, that sucked, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of
Yeah.
like adapting to the acceptance of it. And just like, okay, that was back then and there, right? It doesn't affect me
Yeah.
now. Which you said something that really touched on like a thought that I was having about another common question is like, do I have to share everything in detail when I process? And I always say no, you don't, right? So you don't have
Yeah.
to share, which is such a weird thing for I guess when you're cleaning EMDR and like what it is for someone to say like, oh, I don't have to share everything. I'm like, no, you're doing all the processing on your own. I'm just
Yes.
tuning to you. And like when you reach that point of storing it in a more adaptive way, I will know and you will know.
Yeah.
And you don't have to share any of these details if you don't want to. If you
Yeah.
want to share, cool, but you don't have to. So
Yes. That's a
that's
good
another
point.
point. Yeah.
Yeah, because talk therapy, you may not want to talk through an event that brings you, shame or something, but in EMDR, you could just say, ooh, like I just noticed something really disturbing, or ooh, I
Okay,
feel
cool.
really
Just
tight in
deal
my
with that.
body. Yeah, like we won't pry, like just to notice it. Like well, you don't have to share. So that is one of the pros that I do like with EMDR, especially with sensitive topics.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm trying to scan and see if there is anything else. I want to make sure I go to that specific question um, that we had, but I also want to mention because I am I just started offering EMDR intensives, and I wanted to I don't know, have you ever, you don't have to answer because I know this is shared publicly, but have you ever done an EMDR intensive?
No,
Have you
which
heard about them?
I have heard about them and I know that they can go as long as 8 hours or like a whole day with a break. And I'm like, whoa, because EMDR itself, I get so exhausted afterwards.
Yeah, oh, definitely. So
Hmm.
I'll share a little bit about intensives, and then I'll come back to the exhaustion that comes sometimes with EMDR therapy. So with the EMDR intensive, the good thing is depending on the person or the therapist that's doing the intensive, they can structure it based on the needs of the client. And typically, like some people do a 2, 3 day intensive. I'm going to offer 1 and 2 days. I already started with some of my current
Hmm.
clients, and we started like with the half days where it's 3 hours. But of course,
Yeah.
if breaks is needed. But typically, the intensives are if you have like something that's specific. So let's just say I have a family reunion, I have a wedding, I have this event. It could be some childhood stuff, but typically we don't want to do that in the intensive unless you have like an established rapport with the therapist.
Hmm.
Um, but usually it's like something in the present that I need to address now, or maybe my life's so busy that I need to make some progress quicker, and I don't have time to come weekly. So it really saves some people time where maybe they'll get like 8 hours in a weekend versus like 2 months, you know. So it really like hones in on some specific targets. We don't like want to say you're going to process everything, but if you have something specifically you want to process, it's helpful. So to share, I did a 1 day intensive because I knew I had this speech that was coming up, and I was like, man, I'm really nervous and I want to process it. And so it does drain you, but at the end, you do a lot of resourcing when you close out too. So for busy people, it
Yeah.
could possibly be something that's helpful
Yeah.
for people that have upcoming events. But going back to this, and then I know we still have that one question,
Hmm.
um, but you mentioned exhausted after a session, and that's something maybe a lot of people aren't aware of. I guess, yeah, how do most people feel when you're done with an EMDR session?
Well, so I've gotten mixed things, right? I've gotten like,
Yeah.
I feel so much lighter is the most common. I feel
Mm,
so much lighter. And I'm like, great, cool, right? I've heard oh man, I went home and I took a nap. And I was like, yeah, I've been there.
yeah.
Especially if you do EMDR in the evening hours and then you go home, like you just wiped out, you know? I think it's
Yes.
because um, I guess speaking from my personal experience, I think it's because traditional talk therapy, right? It takes time to talk. And then as we're talking, right, we're sifting through all these things that we want to say, we don't want to say, like, is that tied to this? Like, I know that's not how my brain works. And I'm just like going through, do, 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 do. And so there's only so much I can say and so much that like happens up here, a million
Hmm.
miles a minute. EMDR lets you do that as fast as you need to.
Yeah.
So you can process a whole lot just in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So I think that's where the exhaustion comes from because it feels like you had a whole conversation by yourself in your brain processing all these things, running through it kind of like a movie and go
Yeah.
back and then like
Yes.
specifically targeting things. And then depending on how this, the sessions go, there's, like we said, there's different things that we attune to and different things that we can use to help, get the processing going or keep it from becoming blocked or,
Yeah.
anything like that. But mixed things, right? I've heard it's exhausting, and I think that's probably why, because we're taxing the brain as we're asking you to process and bring dual attention, and you're a million miles a minute, you're going. And you can feel much lighter. I've also heard like, it's different reactions, right? But like, it was so much better afterwards, or I got a slight headache or
Oh, yeah.
whatever it is, right? So it's mixed, but yeah, I think for the most part, you'll feel like you definitely did something. So
Yes, it's like a mental workout.
yeah,
Yes. So with what you said, I agree. Most of my clients, it's like most of them is like that was good, that was insightful, but it was still work. Like just like if you work out physically, like, oh, I felt good, like my body feels good, but it's like I'm also a little tired. And just like if you were to physically work out with EMDR therapy, your mind is still processing. So usually within like the next day or so, you may have new information come up where it's
new
like,
insights.
oh,
Yep.
yeah, because especially as we sleep, because when we are in REM sleep, like our
Mm.
eyes can move side to side. And so, yeah, like new stuff can come up, which I will add, because I know we're running out of time, but I will add that one thing about EMDR, and I know this was a concern for some people, is will I unlock something that I don't want to know? And that is a valid point because I've had clients to unlock some things that they completely forgot about. But the good thing was they were already resourced and ready and prepared that
Mm-hmm.
their mind was comfortable enough to unlock it. Like, I don't know if your mind, because if we're locking something in our mind, it was to keep us safe. And I don't know if you're not safe, like your mind probably won't unlock it. So
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm kind of, and I want to know your take. I guess in my
Mm-hmm.
mind, with the people I had that happen to, it may have been something that was uncomfortable or disturbing, but they were able to manage it and regulate. And they had me present. And if we needed to stop, we would. It was just more so insightful for a lot of them. And it made a lot of sense to the present day issues that were coming up. Like, oh, well, that makes sense. And
Mm-hmm.
so, anyway, so yeah, that's my experience when we talk about like people like, oh, if some come up that I don't want to know. And I think it's more so like, will I be equipped to handle it? You know, if something does come up. But I'm gonna pass it to you.
Yeah.
What's your experience been like?
Oh, I love all the points that you said because that's where my mind was going. But I've also been addressed that question, and I kind of also say the same thing where I'm just like, your mind wouldn't unlock it if you weren't ready or prepared. The other thing I do like to say, which kind of goes into maybe like a more empowerment or like strengths focused or like
Yeah.
post traumatic growth, I guess, mindset is like you've been carrying this around and maybe it was more harmful for your brain to not have unlocked it
That's true.
because why are you here, right? Like that's kind
Yeah.
of what I say. And then I also am just like you've been going through it with it there, like you are equipped enough to handle it. And then two, I
Yeah.
reassure you're safe. And then three, I'm like, it's not right now. Like when you're
Yeah.
processing it, you're not currently in it. It's, like kind of like mixing as EMDR is so eclectic, and then you can kind of put your own I guess therapy modality in there, right? So sometimes I'll have to, DBT like the emotion that comes up and distress tolerance, or the
Yeah.
ACT part of like, okay, you are not your thoughts, you are someone experiencing these thoughts. And so these things coming up, you're experiencing them, you're not in them.
Yeah.
So I kind of think it all goes back to empowerment.
Yeah, I love that feeling. Like at the end, like I love like when I go through, like when I've done it, like at the end, it feels great. And also like to see my clients to go through that, like that last, what is it, the installing the positive beliefs, like one's so powerful. And then the
So
wrap
much
up, or
fun.
even the future
Yeah.
template, like it's just such a powerful modality, and I just love to see people transform. Like I'm grateful to be a part of the process. So okay, so we'll get ready to wrap up.
Well, we
Um,
did have that one last question that
yeah,
was,
yeah,
uh-huh.
from the Instagram, yeah, we
Yeah.
can definitely do that. But I guess I wanted to ask, do you think we touched on what it's like while we're processing, like what that's like? Did we touch on like what that experience is like? Do you feel like we addressed that?
Um, More like what happens in an EMDR session?
No, like, okay, so I'll share for me, it's kind of like a daydream in a sense. It's like I'm
Oh,
awake,
okay, like
but it's
that.
like
Yeah.
your mind is, you're seeing, yeah, it's like a movie, or I don't know how to explain it, but outside of like you're awake, but it's like your mind is like really playing like a movie or something in your head.
Yeah, it's
Some
like,
people it's different, but I think
yeah.
that's the way I can explain it. What is it? Yeah, from what you've heard or experienced, what's it like to go through the actual process?
Yeah, just kind of like that, right? And so a lot of visualization. It's kind of like when you run a scenario in your head kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, but we're not running a scenario, we're remembering. But it's a lot of visualization. I invite, if they're not doing eye movements, which you're thinking about it, so you're visualizing it, and then you're becoming distracted with the eye movements. But I also know that a lot of people tend to find it easier to visualize if their eyes are closed, but they have the tappers, or they're,
Yeah.
self-tapping, or some sort of still using bilateral stimulation, but sometimes it's easier to visualize everything when your eyes are closed and you see
Oh
things a little
yeah.
bit more vividly. And so I understand that. And so it's really just like finding what works. But yeah, it's kind of like running
Mhm.
a movie, watching it back. It's like watching your life back. Sometimes, and I've gotten this, is that sometimes it's a totally different, like, for an example, right? Like I am I know this is a body image thing, essentially, that like, I'm in a dark room and the only thing in front of me is a mirror and I see myself. Right.
Yeah.
And then I've gotten the whole, like, as I'm processing, like, the mirror breaks, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
okay, keep going with that, right? And so it's just really, it's interesting to just whatever comes up, right? Whatever helps you process whatever it is. 'Cause if it's not a specific memory, right, your brain can make a picture of what you're experiencing. And so
Yeah.
it's kind of
Yeah.
what the experience has been like, which is interesting. So,
It is like it's just it speaks to the power of the mind and the brain and just yeah, like how powerful we are when we are able to prepare and heal. Like it's amazing. So,
hmm
okay, last question. And this was a very specific question that someone asked on our Instagram Q&A. And it says, can I use EMDR to build up more consistency? That's all I got.
okay. When I hear that, I think to deal with procrastination, but I don't know if that's the same thing you got or if it's
Yeah,
consistency within therapy. I don't know exactly where that
yeah,
question is tailored to.
yeah. I guess my mind goes to what was it about life that taught me that I shouldn't be consistent? That's what my
Mm.
mind goes to. I don't know like all the context of the question, but it's a reason why if I'm responding in a way that's not consistent or that's inconsistent, it served me at some point. And so,
My mind goes to attachment.
yeah, right. So that's what I knew the assessment. But it just tells me that I learned at some point in my life that it's safer to not be consistent. And that may be because I don't want to get disappointed. It may be
Mm-hmm.
that maybe if I am doing too much of the same, somebody, I don't know, somebody can disrupt that. I don't know, but it definitely takes me to at some point I learned that it's safer to not be consistent. But the therapist in me would want to look at the different parts, this aspect that tends to
Mm-hmm.
be inconsistent and maybe how do we attune that part, but also the person I am today, it's a different story. How do we show this part that in this space, maybe I can be more consistent because it's showing up when it's not needed. And we don't want to get rid of our parts, but if that's landing for the audience, I hope it is. But essentially, this function is showing up being inconsistent. But me, the mature present day me or the manager me, wants to be consistent because maybe it's for work, maybe it's for friends or family.
If it's like
And
school or like college or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
whatever it is, I want to be consistent, but for some reason I'm being triggered, or this part of me is being triggered to function in an inconsistent way because maybe it doesn't feel safe and it's safer to be inconsistent. So will EMDR help with that? Absolutely. EMDR can help with
Yeah.
almost anything
Help with anything. Fear of
in my
failure.
mind.
Yeah, perfectionism. Like
Yeah.
that's kind of where my mind was going with the inconsistency, right? Like more consistent. And I'm thinking also like it can be used to treat maybe depression, right? Like
Yeah.
so just so much. But yes, bottom line is yes, EMDR can help you become more consistent because in the way that we're answering it and the way that we view the question is like there is a blocking belief with
Yes.
consistency. And so we address that blocking belief to formulate a more adaptive belief.
Yes.
Bam.
Good. Good stuff. So, as I scan over everything, is there anything else we are missing that we didn't touch on?
Um, I don't, I mean, the last thing that it's like, is it okay to DMDR virtually? Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's okay to do it any form that you need it. I'm sure some people do EMDR walk and talk therapy too at some point. I mean, I'm sure that
I don't
exists.
know how they do that, but I'm sure it does too. Like, do they walk
Yeah.
with the tappers? Like,
Yeah, I
oh,
don't
feel
know.
these
Yeah. But
straps fall
I'm
over.
sure they've made it to where it works however the client needs it. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think we've addressed pretty much everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So, for the people watching, thank you for your time. I hope you took something with you today. please leave any questions or comments in the chat and we'll try to answer those for you. But again, we're not your personal therapist. We can't answer anything specific for you, but we're
Mhm.
definitely here to give you information to stay informed. Please like and subscribe to our channel and share this video with anyone who may benefit. But outside of that, hope you all have a great rest of your day. And Jasmine, I'll see you later.